What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are here talking about college football. Here is a new podcast. It's called Third and Long. What we're doing here is that we are talking all the hottest news, hottest takes, predictions, and reactions and analytics of games that happen every single Saturday. Sometimes some games happen on Thursday, Friday, but we are analyzing all the hottest games in college football. Here we're going to talk about on this episode is ACC, the Atlantic Coastal Conference. What exactly is that about? Now, honestly, a lot of people kind of sweep the ACC conference under the rug and don't really give it a chance. And honestly, it's not real fair to the ACC, especially not now, how good they're looking. So, we're going to talk about five teams here, in my personal opinion, that I think have the best shot to play for the ACC Championship. And this is exactly just my list. This is who I think it's going to be. Of course, your list is different. And guess what? If it is, it's okay. We're all different. It's all right. Here are my five. These are the five again that I think have the best shot to win the ACC Championship: Duke, UNC, FSU, Louisville, and Miami. Those are my five teams from the ACC. Now, I understand a lot of you may be thinking, well, what exactly makes those five teams stand out to you? Well, I'll tell you. Duke has been playing phenomenal in these first four games. They have been playing at a level that they have, in my opinion, have never played. They are currently scoring 20 plus point victories in every single game that they're playing. That includes Clemson at the start of the season. That's never been done in Duke football history. For them to do that, they're making a statement. Duke is not one of those programs that you just think, oh, well, it's just Duke football. They're just a joke and whatever. Yeah, that's been the case for a couple of years, especially when we were under Dave Cutcliffe. But the thing about it is, when Duke was under Dave Cutcliffe, it wasn't the same as it is now with Mike Elko. Mike Elko has transformed that program. Mike Elko has brought that program to heights so quick and so fast that no one ever thought was possible up until now. Now, of course, they got a big challenge going in. Going in on Saturday. They're playing Notre Dame at home, and I think it's going to be something to where truly a lot of people are going to be watching the game. College Game Day is going to be there. I'm going to be there on the ground. Going to get a reaction from that. And we're also definitely going to get a reaction and analyze what took place in that game. And that's going to be probably on Sunday, if not Monday. So got a lot to talk about with that. But I think Duke has a great chance. If they win out, they have the best chance to play for the ACC Championship. But they got a lot of competition. They've got UNC. They got FSU. They got Notre Dame coming up. It's a lot. It's a lot that is coming up. So next team, UNC. UNC is a team that has been good for a while. UNC has been a dominant force in the ACC. And almost every single season for the past couple of years, they've been a team where everyone has said could possibly win the ACC Championship. But they just couldn't quite do it. They always would lose a game or two, and then it would knock them out of contention, and Clemson would roll right over them. There would be no contest, honestly. I think this year UNC has a great chance. They have a lot of opportunity. They have a chip on their shoulder. They need to win an ACC championship to really just get them over that hump of saying, oh, we're not just mediocre. We are a good football program. So UNC is another team to watch out for in the ACC. Next, we got FSU. FSU is currently in the top five. Not my top five, but they are in the top five according to the polls. FSU has had a lot of close games. FSU has had two close games in the past 2 weeks against teams that, quite honestly, they shouldn't have been. Boston College 2 weeks ago they struggled and struggled hard. They had turnovers, they had miscommunication. They weren't able to really take control of the game, and they almost lost to a Boston College team that is mediocre at best. Not to say anything bad about me about Boston College, but let's be honest here. I think that FSU is overrated when it comes to how good they are in the rankings. Do I think they're a good football team? Absolutely. I think FSU is a great football team, and I think they have a lot of opportunity to get to the top of the mountain again. Do I think it's this season? I don't know. They haven't really played somebody that has given them a challenge just yet, whom is ranked. Um, Boston College was a struggle for them. This past Saturday, they played Clemson at Clemson. And that was kind of sloppy. It was a sloppy game on FSU's part. Clemson played great. Clemson played great. I think the issue is that FSU went into the game off the hype of the fact that they are in the top 5, and there's so much hype around that team that it seemed to get to their head. It seemed that they didn't really care about the game until it got close, and they didn't even lead the game until overtime, I believe. When it went into overtime, that was the first time they took the lead when they scored that touchdown, and that was it. So when you think about FSU, yes, they have a great chance to play for the ACC Championship and get to where they want to go. But I'm not sure if it's going to lead them to a national championship. I don't think this season, but I think they have a good shot of playing for the ACC Championship if they can fix some minor things here and there. Up next, Louisville. Louisville is undefeated right now. Louisville has a high-powered offense. Louisville has a pretty decent defense. Louisville's kind of under the radar right now. Not a lot of people are talking about Louisville. Not a lot of people are thinking about Louisville. And frankly, not a lot of people are even having Louisville in the conversation for the ACC Championship. Now, of course, it's early in the season, and I get that. But if Louisville can keep this tempo going, they're going to be a team that people are going to say, whoa, where'd you come from? Where'd Louisville come from? Just out of nowhere? And I'm going to tell you, Louisville was always there. You just didn't see it. So I think that is a team that I think can get to the place they want to go if they so set that goal to go and play for the ACC Championship. Lastly, Miami. Miami, the U. Miami is a team that really used the transfer portal and used the money that they have for NIL and got them a star-powered team. Now, I will say this. Miami beat Texas A&M, which arguably is, I believe it's the number 3 or number 4 recruiting class in the country as of the 2023. And I think that, honestly, Miami has a good squad. I'm not doubting Miami at all. I think Miami has a good chance to win the ACC Championship. If not, make the playoffs if they win out. The question is, though, with this conference getting such star power, can they do it? And that's what we're about to talk about. Which team has the best chance in order to make it to the ACC Championship? Now, there's a lot of things that you got to factor in here. Duke. Duke is playing, in my opinion, a very tough Notre Dame team. They're playing a team that literally went toe-to-toe, blow for blow with Ohio State. A very good Ohio State team. And they were leading up until the last second. Literally the last second. Now, those of you who haven't watched that game, we're going to talk about what's next for Ohio State and Notre Dame here in a little bit in the next episode, but that's for another episode. Duke. Duke, as of right now, is ranked 17th in the nation. Notre Dame is ranked 11th. A lot of people are betting on Notre Dame to win this game, and it's also at Durham. Like I said, where College Game Day is going to be. Now, I'm not to say this to say that, oh, Duke has a chance or Notre Dame's going to thrash them. Let me take some sip of pickle juice here real quick. Good for the soul. All right. Let's compare Duke real quick as they rank up in schedule over the next coming weeks. So they play Notre Dame on Saturday, a very tough team, and it's at Duke. Next, they have another home game, NC State. Next, after that, they have Florida State. Then after that, they have Louisville, Wake Forest, North Carolina, the old rivalry for the bell, Virginia, and then Pitt. If Duke can play at the level that they have been playing as of right now, I honestly think that Duke could possibly win most, if not all, of these games. And that's not me being a Duke lover. That's not me being optimistic. That's me being realistic. I think that this Duke defense has been tremendous. They have only allowed a total of 14 points in one game. One game. Now, that's not saying that they've only done that the entire season. Of course not. That's the highest that any team has scored on Duke. Northwestern, 14. Every other game, it's been 7. Clemson only scored 7. Lafayette scored 7. UConn has scored 7. Now, of course, they're not very high-powered offenses and anything like that, especially with Clemson in the first week. But that defense is good. They have a good test, though. That defensive line is going to have a good test when it comes up against this Notre Dame offensive line. And if you want to talk schematics, you want to talk realistic, let's talk realistic. Notre Dame is 4-1. Notre Dame is 11th in the country. The only way that Duke is going to be able to win this game is to be dominant when it comes to the offensive line and the defensive line. That's the only way you're going to win this game. You have to score fast, and you have to keep up with Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a great quarterback. We're just going to compare the quarterbacks real quick. Now, this is not to say that Duke is undermatched, because I think Duke is very equally matched in this game. I think so. And not a lot of people are saying that, but I am. And here's why. Sam Hartman, the quarterback for Notre Dame, on the year so far, in his 5 games that he's played, he's thrown 81 out of 115, 1,236 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Those are great numbers. Those are tremendous numbers. Those are possible candidates for Heisman Trophy. I think Sam Hartman is a great quarterback. I think that he has a knack for playing the game. I think that he is a real student of the game, and I think he's tremendous. I think he makes great decisions. He throws good. He has great decision-making when it comes to handing the ball off or deciding to keep it. He's a good quarterback. Riley Leonard is also great quarterback. That didn't make sense. Is also a great quarterback. There we go. He is 67 of 99 on the year, 778 yards, 2 touchdowns. A lot of his touchdowns that he has scored have been running touchdowns. He's a big guy. He's strong. He's fast. And he has a big frame. He is going to give Notre Dame a big struggle and a big challenge when it comes to them trying to keep him contained in the pocket. Can they bring him down? Can they stop his throwing power? That's a big question for Notre Dame. A big question, though, for Duke is, can they stop that just awesome Notre Dame defensive line. If they can, they have a chance. If they can't, it's going to be a long night for Duke. Just saying. When you compare the running backs here, and this is the part that's interesting, and just notice this. Estime, 77 carries, 591 yards, 5 touchdowns. Great numbers. Waters for Duke, 39 carries, 258 yards, 7 touchdowns. Waters is an explosive running back, but he's not Estime. Estime is a guy who, quite frankly, is one of the toughest running backs in college football. He's not the best, but he is one of the toughest running backs in college football. And the question is Duke's defense going to be able to tackle him? He has big legs. He's a big running back. He's a big back. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, can Duke compete with that offensive line that Notre Dame has? Mike Elko just said in the press conference that he's excited, but they are huge. That offensive line for Notre Dame is huge, and it's no joke. It's one of the best offensive lines in the country. Their captain, I believe it's their left tackle, said that he wants them to win the offensive line award at the end of the year. And I think that they have a good shot of doing that. This game is going to be a struggle for Duke if they cannot keep up with Notre Dame. It's going to be a struggle for Notre Dame if they cannot keep Riley Leonard contained in the pocket. I'm going to get into this game a little bit more when it comes to the prediction show that's going to come up later this week. But for now, that is the schedule that Duke has. Duke has a tough schedule coming up as soon as you get deeper into the ACC conference play. But I think they have a good chance of winning these games if they compete at the way that they've been competing these past couple of weeks. And, I think that it's going to be tremendous. I think the ACC is transforming. I think it's getting better and better and better each and every single day. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe they will. Who knows? We're going to move on to UNC, though. UNC, this is their upcoming schedule. They play Syracuse. Now, Syracuse is undefeated. I didn't include Syracuse in this conversation because I don't think that Syracuse has what it takes to get to that end point, to get to the ACC Championship. Not saying that they're not a good football program. I love what they've been doing over at Syracuse. They've really been honing in on that defensive side of the ball. They've been improving on the defensive line, the offensive line. They've been making subtle improvements. I just don't think that they're there yet at that point in the program's history. But I digress. So they play Syracuse at UNC. They have 3 back-to-back home games: Syracuse, Miami, Virginia. Miami is going to give UNC a lot of tests. We are going to see on the 14th of October, can Miami compete with UNC, and can UNC compete with Miami? UNC has a challenge when it comes to Miami with their explosiveness and their defensive prowess of getting after the ball. And the whole point about that is, can UNC's quarterback continue to make great decisions? If he can't, then we know we understand what Drake May is. We understand that he is just a good quarterback, not a great quarterback or even an elite quarterback. I think truly the Syracuse game is going to show us whether or not he can compete with Miami the following week. I really think so. After Virginia, which is their third in their back-to-back home games, they play Georgia Tech, Campbell, Duke, Clemson, and NC State. Those last 3 games are going to truly test UNC. Duke's a good football team. We've already talked about that. Clemson is still Clemson. They're just having an off year. Clemson is still Clemson. And Clemson is going to really give it to them, especially when they have to go to Death Valley. UNC is going to get tested at Death Valley, and they are going to be either really impressed with how they play or we're all going to be disappointed. But that's how it's going to be. And I think that UNC, looking at that schedule, I think that they have a good chance to win most of their games. There's going to be a couple games in there where I think they're just not going to be able to get to that moment, and it's going to slip away from them. Again, I hope that's not the case, but as it sits right now, it looks like it just might possibly be. Next, we're going to talk about FSU. FSU is currently fifth in the nation, and here is their upcoming schedule: Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Duke, Wake Forest, Pitt, Miami, North Alabama, and Florida. FSU has the toughest of the schedules when it comes to them playing different people outside of their conference. Florida State played LSU, and they also are playing Florida at the end of the year. Those are two SEC teams. No other team in here in the entire ACC is playing two SEC teams this season. FSU is a battle-tested team. They beat LSU 45-24 at the beginning of the season to start out. Very dominant performance. Brian Kelly was shocked, as I'm pretty sure all of us were when that happened. They beat Southern Miss 66-13, but then they hit two speed bumps in Boston College and Clemson. If FSU can get back to that team that played LSU, they have a real chance of beating anybody who is going to be their opponent in the ACC Championship game and playing for a playoff slot, and then possibly playing for the national championship if they can get back to what they were in week 1 and week 2 to put in the Southern Miss game in there as well. If Florida State can get to that point, the ACC championship race won't even be close. As it sits right now, though, that's why it's a 5-horse race. That's why I have it the way that it is. Because as it sits right now, I don't think there's a clear like, oh, well, this team is so much better and this team is so much better. And right there, that's the two. I don't see it. I don't see just one team that is like above the rest. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, Florida State's ranked in the top 5. That's great. That doesn't mean that you are a top 5 team. It just means that that's where the people who do the rankings think that that's where you're at. I like FSU. I think they're great. I think they have a great shot at pulling off a lot of surprises this season. Question is, though, can they maintain? Can they get better? Can they make sure that they control the ball like they did when it came against LSU? We'll have to see. Louisville's next games are NC State, Notre Dame, Pitt, Duke, Virginia Tech, Virginia, Miami, and then Kentucky. Louisville is playing some good teams this season. And I think, honestly, Louisville has a good chance of actually being in a good situation to win their games. This podcast sucks.